Welcome back. Week 2 of Trust the Process podcast. Shout out Joel Embiid. This week it's just me and Jake. After some of the decisions Jason made with his fantasy football team the last 7 days, we decided we definitely don't want his input on anything fantasy football related. With that, let's kick it over to Jake. Let's go through a recap of the scores for the weekend.
Yeah, a little bummed to not have our third member here, but he did deserve a little bit of a timeout after that move he made. We'll get into it a little bit later. We're gonna just get started here with a recap of the games. I think they went pretty well as expected. We'll kind of just start out. Berto beat Schneidy's team. They pretty handily 12-point win. Do you have anything on the Berto win? A lot of these are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, Bordeaux, I think, is a competitor this year. Schneidy, I think he isn't really sure which direction he's going. It's kind of middle of the pack versus top of the pack here. Some disappointing performances from some guys, but I mean, if they played 10 times, I would expect Bordeaux to win 8 or 9 of them. So not super surprising there.
Yeah, and he even had the Packers stack that flopped. So to pull out a win, he's in a pretty good spot there. Going over, we had Zach making moves, beating Najee and the Jets. That one's gonna sting for all Najee and the Jets there, trying to come out with their team swinging. But that one too was pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any big. Mostert got hurt. That sucked for him. Godwin and Sutton both flopped, but
yeah,
realistically, what do you think?
Disappointing week for sure. I think Najee is entering win now mode, and he's going for it this year. Making moves as our defending champion, but it was pretty fluky last year. I don't think anyone is expecting him to repeat. I don't know if anyone would say he has a top 3 team even. So a little bit of an upset, I would say. I know it sounds weird being the defending champion winning, and Najee, who I think got 8th last year or 9th last year. So a little surprising, but by the end of the year, I think Najee will be a lot higher in the rankings than making moves. So,
yeah, I agree. I think year 1 and making moves peaked. He didn't really do anything for the future, so he'll squeak out some wins. He'll be a team that's going to disrupt some stuff, but ultimately, that stings for Najee. The old JGC 395s. We will come up with a team name at some point, but we beat the Lonely Boys. That's pretty much as expected. Joel's team went into rebuild mode pretty early on towards the end of last year, and he's just kind of maintained that. He's got some pieces, but it's got as expected.
Yeah, nothing to add there. First place team versus one of our last place teams. So
probably the biggest, not really upset, but surprise win would be Stu's team, the LOLGGs, beating Joe. Needed every bit of Monday Night Football to get there. Would ultimately be it, and you can tell Joe's team lacks some depth with how it came out with this one.
Yeah, the fact Derek Carr only threw to Darren Waller all night really bailed Stu out of a bit of a mess here. This is one he should win. And between Darren Waller getting 20 targets and Josh Jacobs getting some trash touchdowns, he should be happy he squeaked this one out, because other weeks this is a loss by 25 points.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, he take your wins where you get them. You're not going to see them every week. It's definitely not expected every week with a team like his. Meech, you went on to beat Jason after his moves. During the week, he came out and threw a stinker, but I guess again, as expected. I don't know where he's heading with this team, but it looks to kind of be in the rebuild phase after dumping Metcalf. So
this one was a bit more nervy than I was hoping for. I was hoping to kind of have a comfortable win, and I was actually sweating for a little bit there on Sunday, really watching the scores and everything. But I think this probably an expected win. This is one you should win.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is no fault to you. You had so many points left on your bench too, and that just is coming with how the season's starting to pan out. So should have been a lot further away than it was. You should have really ran away with it, but you got the win, and that's what matters. And then lastly, Josh's team, the all 4-string running backs, took out J-Rod's White Claw Outlaws. which I guess we expected. I feel like we're kind of leaning into, and we'll have a conversation that he's kind of going into the full rebuild.
Yeah.
He hit the button and is going for it. So those are the matchups for the week. I mean, I think it was pretty much as expected, nothing too crazy, but we can turn into week 2 here. We had some free agent ads and some trades that we'll go over. Firstly, we'll talk about the big free agent ad of Elijah Mitchell. Came to me. I did use a good chunk of my fab for it, $121 out of the 200 budget. But I think he was worth it. I mean, there's not going to be many players that fall into an opportunity like he has, especially if Mostert down. So I just really kind of went for it. I mean, you can't take the 200 in the next season, so get them while you can.
Yeah, I think it was a great pickup for you. 60% of your fab. I mean, I would guess half the league ended the season with more than 120 fab last year. So spending that on him makes a ton of sense, right? You don't need deep bench stashes. You need guys who could potentially help you win it this year and give you an immediate impact. So it makes sense for any competitor, really, not just yourself, to spend up and get that guy. So, yeah, good pickup. We'll see how he pans out. I know a lot of people are high on him. There's talks
Yeah.
of running back by committee. There's talks of, everything else going on. So we'll see what happens. But it's definitely worth the gamble.
Yeah, I'm not as optimistic as I was at the beginning or when I initially put it in, just because it is a Shanahan offense. They never have had a true running back one. You get a few weeks of each at a time. But he's also a young guy. I mean, I think he's a rookie this year, so I still can hang on to him and keep him, and maybe he'll get out of there and get a bell cow roll somewhere, or shit, just turn into a flex play for me down the stretch. So just another reliable person. Um, but our second one I wanted to kind of talk about was Larry Roundtree getting picked up by Berto. Spent 55 on him. A couple people put claims in for Roundtree. I just think it was a nice little pickup. Somebody who could fall into a pretty big volume. He's one injury away from it. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same thing as Elijah Mitchell, right? Except for that injuries happened already. Bordeaux's another guy trying to win it this year. So going after and spending the money on someone who could give you immediate impact and help you, get over that hurdle and win that championship this year makes tons of sense. So some other notable pickups. I know J Rod's White Claws finally dropped Todd Gurley from his dynasty team. So it doesn't even matter who he picked up. That is a win in itself. But he did pick up KJ Hamler, which I really like that pickup. Young guy for Denver. Jerry Judy just went out for a little bit. Might get some more opportunity here. As far as the locker room narrative, supposedly Teddy Bridgewater asked him to move his locker directly next to Teddy Bridgewater. So maybe there's some locker room chemistry being formed there. On the flip side, Tim Patrick also got picked up this week. Kind of the same situation as KJ Hamler, but I don't know where his locker's at. So we'll see what happens. But solid pickups all around. Some guys are starting to make some good moves. There's some unpredictable managers who actually did things this week that I was like, oh, I would have done that. Like they're thinking differently than they normally do. Like this is good.
I think for the competitiveness of our league and what we're going to be giving the viewers week in, week out, is it is going to definitely become a lot more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Starting to like get some people understanding that we're in a dynasty league and not a redraft, and that it is a different format where you need to think ahead as well as the win now. So yeah, some good moves. I'm really optimistic. People are starting to understand where they kind of fall in the pecking order and are playing accordingly. So
Mm-hmm.
should make for some good moves, some good drama going down into midseason towards the playoff push too. So
Right. So
uh,
speaking of direction, this is probably a good segue into some of our trades from this week.
yeah, we had a couple bangers.
Yeah, we had some big boys moving around. Some highly ranked draft play or highly ranked dynasty players. Let's start with the trade from Jason's team.
Yes, yeah. Just to recap that one for you, it was DK Metcalf and Tyler Boyd going over to Najee and the Jets. Najee gave up J.K. Dobbins, Tyson Williams, so the pair of running backs from Baltimore, a 2023 first and third pick, and first and third rounder, and then a 2022 second round pick. So not the return I'd like to see, but what do you kind of think of it overall?
I don't know what he's doing. Um, Jason, thoughts and prayers, does not have his first round pick this year. Um, so he's kind of this to me. This feels like a tanking move, giving up those two guys for really Tyson Williams is the only production he's going to get this year. Um, it's a tank move, but you don't have your first round pick. You didn't really get a superstar in return. I know Tyson Williams, there's a lot of hype, but I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. The offensive coordinator from the Ravens came out today and said that the days of one running back playing the whole game are over, and that the second half of Monday night was similar to how they'll play the rest of the year. They want to get other backs in there. They've signed 3 running backs since Gus Edwards went down. They
Mhm.
didn't give him the full carries on Monday night. They're doing no action. The Ravens are doing no action that says they're going to ride on Tyson Williams, right? So I don't know what you're doing. When Dobbins comes back, he's going to be in the same timeshare that Tyson Williams is right now, except for he's coming off an ACL tear. The picks he got, he got one first rounder out of it. It's from Najee and the Jets, and it's his 2023 pick. He's super young and he's trying to win. You're talking the 10th, 11th, 12th pick in the draft, plus some timeshare running backs and a pair of second rounders. I don't get it. You're tanking without your first, and you didn't get a great return. I have a little more on this too that I'll add in here real quick. When you're building your dynasty team, I don't think you want to start your team with running backs. I think if you're in tank mode, you need to get young receivers because they have a longer career arc, and chances are they stay healthier than running backs. And Jason now has traded up his young wide receiver for 2 young running backs, but he also has Saquon Barkley. Now he has Dobbins, both coming off ACLs. I just think you're building it completely backwards. I don't get the move. I think he got waxed on this one.
Yeah, when everyone pushes, he's definitely pulling in this sense. Maybe we're all just he's got the big brain play that we're just not sure of. But yeah, I mean, everything narrative wise says that this should have went the other way and try to get some receivers, some quarterbacks, some people who have some longevity in the league. Running backs are a dime a dozen, and it's one play away from them being irrelevant for a year. So that's just a lot of gambling that he invested in a lot of his capital into his running back. So definitely agree it was a questionable move, but Jason, hope it works out for you. The other big move we'll kind of talk about was Tyreek went over. Tyreek finally jumped ship and is now on the old JGC team. I picked him up for a 2023 first rounder, a 2022 second rounder. I gave up DJ Moore and Brandon Cooks as well just to get Tyreek. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, I made the trade. I know I like it. So
Yeah. I think this one's pretty fair. I looked at it for a long time after it went through, and I was like, man, I don't know who won this. And to me, that's the sign of a fair trade is when I can stare at it for an hour and I still don't know or have a gut feeling really. The picks aren't going to be great for J-Rod, but it's something. But on the flip side, he got good prospects out of this. Brandon Cooks, super solid guy. If I'm J-Rod, I'm trying to flip Brandon Cooks still. I believe he's 27. He's pretty much guaranteed 1,000 yards a year at this point. He's on the Texans this year, so we'll kind of see how that pans out with that whole situation. But I would try to flip Brandon Cooks. DJ Moore, great young guy to have. So I think he did pretty well. Tyreek is on probably in his prime exactly right now, or close to, or even maybe a little after. So it makes sense for both of you. I don't know. I don't have an issue with it. I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately when I reached out to him for Tyreek, it was like, how can we do this fairly? How can you get something you'll be happy with? And, some back and forth. I was sad to see DJ Moore go. I know there's been a few people wanting him, and I've really coveted having him. But yeah, he's got some picks. At least he can package maybe some of those to move up in the draft or go after his young stud that he wants to build this team around. For a team that's getting ready to go full tank, he can find some stud that he can start building around for next year. Overall, I mean, I'm super happy. I have Tyreek, I have a starter, I have 2 players not on my team anymore that I won't have to choose who to start. It's Tyreek, and it's always going to be Tyreek. So that's kind of what helped me really want to pull the trigger on that one.
Yeah. The only downside for this trade, I feel like for J-Rod, is by making this trade, he's admitting he's going into rebuild, and he needs to for sure, but he also does not have his first round pick next year. So we have two teams now tanking essentially without
About to
their
give
pick.
over. Yeah, about to give over some pretty high draft picks that they traded away before they knew where they were getting into.
Yep.
Yeah, that's super unfortunate. Like I said, hopefully he seems to start really getting things figured out. Because we put that trade together and it gave him some perspective. Because earlier in the week he did trade that Zach Wilson trade. I kind of called that one a big blunder. He gave it for that Patriots running back. I forgot who.
Ramondre Stevenson, I believe.
Yeah, and then he also gave him a pick for it.
Yeah, he gave him Zach Wilson and a third for
Yeah.
Stevenson.
Which, yeah, I mean, that was just a huge blunder, in my opinion. Zach Wilson's got a ton of asset. He could have been a lot more draft picks if he would hang on to him and, ride that wave a bit. Definitely worth more than what he got for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lopsided trade, but I mean, Zach Wilson as good as he potentially could be. I don't think that's going to be a team that or a trade that he'll look back years from now and say, "Oh wow, that's the reason why I'm really not winning." You know?
Oh yeah, no, and that's why it was just like a big blunder, but he kind of saw what he did and is, like I said, something kind of clicked with him and the dynasty things are making sense. So that's good to see.
Right.
Plus, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're not going to win a dynasty championship with what we've seen out of him so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only been one actual regular season game, but I was kind of down on him going into the NFL. So not a bad trade. He also did one more move, and that was just today. Um, Sent over Gronk to was that Najee's team?
Yeah. Yep.
Najee and the Jets pulled the trigger to get Gronk, and he gave over Gerald Everett and Donovan Peoples-Jones. So J-Rod team getting young assets again. He only needs a handful of the ones he's collected to really pan out. One of them to take off to make it all worthwhile. So
Yeah. Yeah, good moves. I mean, the way he's got to think about it is he's at best we'll say 2 years away from really competing, and he would have to make a lot of moves and everything would have to go perfect. But let's say 2 years away from competing. Anyone who on your team right now in 2 years won't help you win a championship, get rid of them. Their value is just going to go down. Um, that's why I think trading away Brandon Cooks is probably the way to go. So I know he's only 27, but I said 2 years. I mean, more realistically, it's probably 3 or 4. And by that point, Brandon Cooks is in his young 30s. He's probably not popping 1,000 yards a year anymore.
no, not at all.
Get rid of anyone over like 28. Start there.
Go young, get draft picks, and like I said, even if it's not so great picks, get multiple picks and package them to move up, and
Yep.
give them to people who are looking for those dart throws versus a sure thing, and really make your way through. So I see a lot more moves coming from him
Yeah.
going into the parts of the season until we get a little bit too late for it. But yeah, those are kind of the moves that happened, and we'll try to highlight the big ones week in and week out. But this was a rather big week one on the trade scale. So
Yeah. Probably won't be as many exciting trades the coming weeks. Jake, let's go ahead and let's look at next week's matchups and let's make some predictions here.
yes, sir. So let's go into scores, and we
Live now,
are
Thursday night football. They have kicked off.
yes, sir. So first game we got me going against the thoughts and prayers. What do you see going on with this game?
Yeah, I mean that should be a comfortable win for you. I don't think Jason wants to win that. I think you definitely do. I mean potential here for maybe a 40-point win or something like that.
Yep. I mean, I just even in my notes, it's just Jacob wins. I think it's a pretty straightforward win. We're in a full rebuild with Jason, it looks like, and my team's stacked. So
Yeah.
easy dub, hopefully. Next up, we got Najee and the Jets and Ryan Berto. I think this is a big matchup for the week. One of our big ones.
Yeah, definitely. Two guys who both are trying to win it this year. I'm going to actually take Bordeaux in this matchup. Reason being, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, after the crap that they threw out on that field last week, I think they're going to come back and absolutely milk the Lions. This is one of those like 40-point Aaron Rodgers games. Devontae gets, 2 touchdowns and 170 yards, something like that. Rodgers throws for 4 or 5. Like, I feel like they're going to come out and do what the Saints just did to them. Aaron Rodgers is going to look like Jameis Winston this week.
Yeah, you nailed it. We don't have to go too much further onto this because my notes say Green Bay difference.
Yeah, it'll be
It's
interesting.
Yeah, I do think that they're gonna just crush. So yeah,
I know
absolutely.
Najee has really high hopes for this year. So starting off 0-2, it might be a bit of humble pie, say, hey, I know you're young. I know you got a lot of good guys, but it's not your time yet.
Yeah,
So
maybe sit tight, eat your L's, and stay in the middle of the pack and know what's happening. Don't get too uncomfortable though, because he's got a nice young team, so he's got to make sure
definitely.
he's smart about it.
Right.
Next matchup we got Stu versus Joel. LOLGGs versus the Lonely Boys. What do you see here?
The Lonely Boys team isn't as bad as their record has kind of shown last year, and even as bad as they looked last week. They're going to pull some upsets this year. Um, I don't know if it's this week, but I think there's probably going to be some weeks where we pick against them and they prove us wrong. So I'll take Stu's team this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Lonely Boys.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I did say Stu wins it. Stu's just got a stronger team. If you look kind of at the cross matchups, we have a few real big mismatches. I don't think Stu's team is one that'll ever exceed expectations on a week-to-week basis, especially when you're 1-2, you're Dalvin Cook, Patty Mahomes. You know what they're gonna boom every week. The rest of them, no, I don't see them exceeding. But Stu wins that one for sure.
Yep.
Going into the next one, we have Meech. You are up against the Outlaws here.
Yeah. This I mean, kind of similar to you and your matchup. This should be a comfortable win. But you never know. I mean, they play the game for a reason. So
Yeah, true. I kind of same thing. We don't not too much into it. It's he committed to the full rebuild. You can see it kind of in his lineups. Just with what's best available on his team is still not going to put up the points you need to win it outright. You need some real lucky days.
mhm.
So should be pretty straightforward win for you there. Um, Four string running back, old Josh and Schneidi, the new owner coming in. What do we got on this one?
This is kind of two middle of the pack teams. I think each of them, if they committed to a rebuild, could do it, and each of them, if they committed to going for it, could do it. But while they're kind of in this limbo and not really doing either, they're kind of middle of the pack to me. So this one's kind of a toss up. I think I like fourth string running backs team more, especially from what we've seen from Kyler Murray. But at the same time, Russell Wilson's no slouch, and he can do the same thing. So yeah, I mean, like I said, kind of a coin flip here.
Yeah, I have Josh's team coming out on top. Was my pick, but I just put a little note between for both the teams. There's just not enough top tier talent to keep up with the leaders here in the league, but uh, he should have no problem beating Schneidi this week. And then our last matchup going into this week, we have making moves against broken steps. So Zach versus Joe. What do you make of this one?
So again, I think making moves team is kind of like fool's gold right now. Um, with that said, he still might win this week. But you look over at Broken Steps team, he's got some really solid pieces there. I'm expecting Zeke to bounce back. I'm not expecting Debo to go off again, but Brandon Ayuk, I think, will have a better game. CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he's capable of putting up a 30 burger anytime he wants. So I think Broken Step has a high ceiling. I think making moves doesn't have as high of a ceiling. But at the same time, whose floor is higher, it's definitely making moves. So I'll lean that direction, but Joe's team is no slouch.
Yeah, I put Zach will win. I think Joe will keep it close, especially if the Niners throw to his two receivers only. He's got a lot of eggs in that basket. Um, but yeah, his team is surprisingly on paper looks pretty good.
Mhm.
And yeah, Zach's team is destined for the nursing home at any point. With Mr. Brady leading the way there. So it's just a matter of time before he falls off, but it just isn't going to be this season, I don't think. So yeah, I think that about does it for us. Do you want to give us a good wrap up and send us
Do
off?
we might have one more matchup.
I think that was all of them.
What was that?
Yep, all
Oh, yep,
6.
you are correct.
Yep, and I got my predictions written down. If you want to give me yours real quick, I'll jot them down and then we can check them next week on the podcast.
All right. I will take your team. I will take Bordeaux. I'll take Stu's team. My team, I'm going to go with fourth string running back and making moves. Those are probably the same
So
two.
your team, four stringers, and then you said Zach's team.
Yep.
All right, cool. I got them highlighted and labeled for next week. We'll kind of go over our results, our pick 'em, see how they go. Talk about any moves that we have. And yeah, thanks for having me on another episode of the pod. We hope to keep this interesting for you guys. So
Yeah. We'll be back next week, kind of doing the same thing we did this week. Dunking on whoever made boneheaded plays and kind of just recapping everything. So if you're still watching, which you're probably not, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
yeah, see you guys.